What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of 10-Second Gems. Um, I'm not sure how easy this podcast is going to be. From being completely honest with you, I don't know. I had a whole podcast planned out. I had it all pre-productioned out and was all hype on Sunday morning to do it. And throughout the day on Sunday, I was just kind of just going through my little emotional things I go through sometimes. It's just stuff that I've been going through since my childhood, and it kind of basically kept me away from the podcast, kept me away from it. I was supposed to record it on Sunday night and upload it for Monday morning. So my apologies to you. You're getting the podcast a day late. To be completely honest with you, I actually wasn't going to do one this week because, again, just going through a lot of stuff in my own mind, a lot of insecurity stuff. Listen, it's already hard enough to do this podcast. I've stalled for so long on doing this podcast. A lot of it had to do with insecurity, and so I wasn't gonna do one this week, and it's all day today, just kind of going through whatever the things I go through in my mind, and just childhood stuff that I'm still dealing with, 25, 26, 27, 28 years later, 30 years later, whatever. And I just kind of had to talk myself into doing the podcast because my whole reason for doing this podcast initially, is just to basically for people that I know, and to hopefully make some new friends and to be able to give some good advice along the way and drop some gems and do all that, the whole spiel already. And I was just thinking to myself today, this is an opportunity to basically help somebody put away the plan and just get on your podcast and talk. You got a platform. This last episode we just did, episode 5 last week with my friend Isaac, is our most downloaded episode to date. It got 110 downloads. That certainly does not sound like a lot to you. It's a lot to me. Just because I was, I was only expecting to have, 20, 30 downloads here and there, just friends or whatever. But people are listening. People are spreading the word. There's a couple listeners in the UK. There's a couple listeners in Italy, which is weird enough. I don't know how that happened, but cool. So yeah. So I wake up Sunday morning and I play keys at church. I'm a piano player. I have been for a very long time. You might know this about me already. Just listening to the podcast. I've been in music for a long time, and I woke up Sunday, went, played at church, and on my way home it starts. Just the doubt of, do people even care to listen to this podcast? Why am I gonna burn, 2.5 hours of my night doing a podcast, editing it, uploading it, mixing it, EQ, compression, all this stuff. And it usually starts there. It starts with something small like that. And then it goes on to other things. I start looking back on my life, man, and I start kind of, sometimes I throw myself a pity party. Sometimes I get really mad at myself for things that happened in the past, things that I did to people in the past, things that people did to me, and it just piles up and piles up and piles up and piles up. And guys, sometimes I'm like this for, a week, 10 days. But yeah, I was telling myself this morning, like, look, dude, you can ask people to pray for you all you want. But if you're not going to pull yourself up, if you're not going to put things into action on your own, then all of that is useless. And today, I really spent a lot of time just thinking about what I've overcome in my life. I don't do that often. This podcast, believe it or not, has caused me to look back on my life, especially my childhood, and just realize how immensely blessed I am now. I did not have a great childhood, not at all. And my early adult life, or my late teens, early adults, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, I went through a series of emotions in dealing with my childhood again, because it comes and goes. This stuff doesn't go away, guys. And when I was a kid, when my mother died when I was 12. I went through a really bad mean streak. And then as I got into like my 10th grade, 11th grade year, I started slowing that up, and was going to a youth group, and all that stuff kind of helped me. When I went to New York and I was producing records in New York, my first deal, I started partying and doing all this other stuff and just kind of being a crazy young guy, And in that process of going through that stage in my life, I don't know how to explain it, but only to say that I don't know how I got out of that part of my life unscathed, because I've never really, or I had never really till recently, I'd never been to counseling for my issues. I've been to a couple counselors, or whatever you want to call it, and it just hasn't worked out. So I'm in the process of trying to do that again. That's not easy to admit. I'm only saying that because I'm about to hit you with a gem, or at least I think is a gem, and that is this. In the last 3 years, I've realized that what's the harm in trying to get help for my issues. For a very long time, in that stage in my life where I was in between 17 and 22, I was just you know what, I'm pretty much a man now. I could do this on my own. I'm not gonna spend money to sit in a room and talk to some stranger that don't know a damn thing about what it's like to live in my shoes. Probably some dude that went to college and lived in the suburbs. What was he gonna tell me, about my life, or how's he gonna be able to help me? When my mother died, they tried putting me in counseling, and I just wouldn't talk. I would not talk to any of the psychiatrists. I just would sit there. I would not talk. So they actually gave up. They stopped spending money trying to do that. But yeah, the gem is not too late, guys, to go get some help. There's no shame in getting help. I've had to come to that realization, and in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, I've gone to a couple different ones. I went to a couple 4 or 5 sessions in one spot, and 3 or 4 sessions in another spot. It didn't necessarily work out, but I definitely, looking back on it, I could definitely see how that could help. You know what I mean? So, this podcast has been very therapeutic for me in a ton of ways, but I had to kick myself in the ass today. Number one, to get this podcast going, and number two, just to get myself in gear to start looking for another psychiatrist to go to, or another counselor to go to, because when it didn't work out, I was just see, this is what I'm talking about. This is why I don't spend money doing this, because look, we just spent blank amount of money, and look, we didn't get nothing out of it. But I had to beat myself up a little bit today in the process of beating myself up already, and motivate myself to get out and to get some help. I'm not crazy, I promise. I just been through a lot of stuff, and a lot of my childhood stuff turns into self-hate and self-anger. Um, I have a day job now. I have had a day job actually for 8 years. On top of everything else that I do, I own a production company. I'm still producing records. I'm still mixing records here and there. Still doing some stuff, some music stuff for TV and film. So I'm still working in the entertainment industry, and I'm still doing the photography thing. But I've been teaching audio production in a high school, so 10th, 11th, 12th grade. And if I'm being completely honest with you, the last 8 years, I realized during this pandemic that in the last 8 years, a lot of my therapy has come from being around my students. I haven't felt as heavy, like just, I haven't felt as heavy. I don't know how else to say that, but to say that mentally just heavy, physically just heavy, than I have in the last few months. And tomorrow, I go back to work for the first day officially in a year since this whole pandemic started. And the day after tomorrow, students come back into the building, and I'm gonna see some of my students. Now, granted, I've been teaching them online. We've been doing the virtual thing for a year. It's been cool, but I'm looking forward to it. It's scary because of this whole pandemic thing, but I'm looking forward to it because I think this is a gem, guys, but I love teaching. I hate the politics of the job. There's a lot of things I absolutely do not like about the job, but I love the part of the job where I'm teaching and getting a chance to speak into these young people's lives. Some of my students, former students, are now my friends. Last time I went to Italy, one of my students that graduated the second year that I was working, so he had already been out of school for 5 years. He's damn near like my adopted son. Last time I was in Italy, he dog sat my dogs and watched, and he house sat so I say that to tell you that my job has been a part of my growing process. I'm gonna go a little deep. I'm gonna dive into the ocean with you on this. This is very personal. I don't know if too many people know this, but obviously if we've never met, then obviously you don't know this about me. But my wife and I, we can't have children. It's because of me. We can't have children, but it's dope because even though I don't have children, I feel like God has given me, every year he gives me 25 more, 30 more, 25 more, 30 more. And through teaching and through being, because see, the thing is, teaching, that job of being a teacher is not just teaching. If I was to be completely straight up with you about it, to be a teacher, it's a long list. It's teacher, psychiatrist, secondary parent, damn near part-time guardian. There's all these things that come with that job. And that job, I'm realizing more and more, or I have realized more and more in the last 10 months, how much that job and how much my students have affected my growth as a man, as a grown ass man. Um, yeah, I just been reflecting on that, and today I've really just had to sit down and remind myself of all the things that I've overcome. I had to remind myself that there are people out there that care about me, and I had to remind myself that my students, some of my former students, view me as more than just a friend. They view me as a dad, as a big brother. Trying not to. Okay, so Saturday night, one of my former students, Corey, sends me a text. This is Saturday night, okay? This is before everything starts falling on my shoulders Sunday. And the text just said, just like, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate you. Thank you so much for teaching me everything that you taught me. Now that I'm in college, it's all coming together, blah, blah, that kind of thing. And so in the process today of kicking myself in the ass, pardon my French, whatever, I remembered that I hadn't responded to that text message. So went back and I listened to I read the text message, and then I texted Corey back. And I'm gonna be in Florida hopefully in the next 2 months, and that's where Corey is, along with another one of my former students. So of course it's like, yo, can't wait to see you in Florida, we're gonna have lunch, blah blah. And that text message was like it was just that thing on that, the sugar on top, I guess you could call it. It was the sugar on top, to kind of pull me out a little bit. I've gotten tons of text messages like that in the last 8 years, and I always print screen them so I don't lose them. So that caused me to want to go into my Dropbox. And I go into my Dropbox and I start pulling up all the screenshots of the different students throughout the years. One of my students, before all of this pandemic stuff, was out touring. Another one's doing some stuff at Fox News. A couple of them are just working regular gigs. Some of them are out there hustling as record producers and studios and all. So, shout out to my students, man. If you're listening, any of y'all, past and present, you guys really, those of you that have sent me those text messages, thank you. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm looking into the camera and I'm saying thank you. You pulled me out of a fire today, and I love y'all for that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I don't have any of this written down, guys. This wasn't pre-production. I'm literally just talking into a mic and a camera. So if you needed to hear this today, I'm not gonna sit here and say I have the answers, but I'll tell you what I did today is I just had a long conversation with myself, and I had to dig up some pictures. I had to look through my Instagram. I had to just the old pictures. I had to walk around my house here and literally tell myself, look at that picture and look where you're at now. We don't do that enough. Sometimes people say, there's an old saying, let the past be in the past. But you know what? Looking back on the past is what can pull you out of a fire or out of a bad time in your life. Some people say no looking back. I'm never looking back. Sometimes you got to. Even if your past was bad, you got to look back and then look at where you at now. Hopefully you're in a better situation than you were. And if you're not, then that past still should drive some sort of motive to get better, right? And I don't know, I don't know about you, but I don't always think of it that way. And today I was literally telling myself, like, bro, look back. Look where you came from. Look at everything you've been through. Look at your job. Look at the jobs you've had. I worked a regular job when I was like 17 before I started working in New York. And then I worked for myself all the way up to I was 32 years old. So from 18 to 32, I worked for myself for 33 actually. I had to tell myself that today. Like, that's a pretty damn good, blessed life to not be under anybody. And now the job that I have, I only have it because of my past. So I'm gonna break that down to y'all. So, and people have asked me like, yo, how did you become a teacher? So here's the deal. I don't have a college degree. But in the state of Tennessee and in a bunch of states in the country, if you have a massive amount of experience in an industry, you can teach that industry. You can teach that. And it just so happens that in Nashville, there are 2 audio production programs. One of them is at a high school downtown. The other one is at the school I work at. I went to do a lecture at a school here in town, Hillsborough. And I go to Hillsborough, and while I'm doing my presentation, and I'm basically making a beat in front of the students and teaching them like the workflow and the process. Teacher's looking at me the entire time. She's just staring at me. Shout out to Becky, man. Becky Banizak. Hopefully you're listening to this. Shout out to you. Straight up. You don't even know. But anyway, shout out to you. So she's staring at me, and I'm like, yo, what's up with this chick staring at me? And you know, Becky's like, she's a pretty lady or whatever. So I'm like, yo, I'm married. I don't need this lady looking at me like that. So at the end, shout out to Becky. So at the end of it, I'm packing my stuff up, and my man Marco he was there doing a lecture on video production, and he brought me as the audio guy. So she's talking to Marco, and to me, Marco walks off, and she's like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? I'm like, yeah, what's going on? I'm like, oh, here we go. My conceited ass, it wasn't even like that. So she goes, hey, you're gonna be a teacher. And I started laughing. And I said, listen, I just got my GED because I wanted to get it. Like, I just got it like a month ago. And she goes, perfect. That's all. Perfect. You just need a high school degree, or you need a GED. And I'm like, no, that's not real. And she goes, well, how much experience do you have? And I said, 18, 19 years of production or whatever. And she goes, cool. If you can prove that, then you can teach that topic here. And there's 2 audio production programs in the city. So she's like, can I pass your information on? So I give her the information, and about 7 months go by. I completely forgot about it. Well, apartmentrentals.com is one of my clients. I shoot apartments for them. So they needed somebody to shoot, I think it was like 23 apartments in Philly over a span of a week. And it's really good money. So I told my wife, I'm like, listen, I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna spend the week there. I'll get to, I'll spend the week with my grandmother, and I'll go shoot these apartments. It was a lot of money. So I'm like, cool, I'm out. So anyway, I went. I'm in Philly, and I had actually just finished shooting a couple apartments, and I was at my brother Andy's house. My brother, he's a friend of mine. He's one of my best friends in the entire planet. So I'm at his house, and the phone rings. Pick it up, and it's this guy named Robin Wall. He ends up being my boss. He's like, hey, I heard that. He's like, I'm looking for an audio production teacher, and I heard that you're the man, that you're my guy. So I'm like, what? I'm like, who is this? And he's like, this is Robin Wall. So anyway, so he's like, listen, do you want the job or not? Tells me straight up like that. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I'd like to interview for it. And he's like, cool, listen, when are you coming back? So I tell him I'm coming back on July 7th. So he tells me, cool, can you meet me here on, I think it was July, 18th or something. So I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And he goes, all right, be at the school at this time. And, but if you don't show up, I'm gonna tell you right now, don't even bother calling me. So I'm like, what's this guy? So I'm like, all right, I'll go. So I go meet with the guy. He takes me around as he's interviewing me, takes me around the school. Long story short, I get the job. And I start in a month. So I'm kind of like, what in the world is this? But I took the job because photography, I didn't have anything else on the schedule. And I had one record I was working on in January of that year, like whatever. So I take the job, and I'm telling my wife, I'm like, I'll just do it for a year and we'll see what happens. 8 years later, I'm still there. But anyway, so I'm literally, with the same story I'm telling you, I'm literally going through that story in my mind this morning. And I'm counting it as a blessing. You know what I mean? And as I'm going back, looking at that time, I'm literally like telling myself, like, dude, you're an idiot. If you think things are bad right now, imagine if you didn't have all that. Imagine if you didn't have the relationships you have with all these people. And so that's how I became a teacher, pretty much. I still making records. I won a Latin Grammy as part of a collective for a record that I shot. Which one was it? Oh, it was a thing we shot at this church in Lakewood. I shot all the artwork for it, and then the next year I was head of photography for a thing for an artist named Christine De Clario in Puerto Rico at the Coliseum in Puerto Rico. It's basically like their arena, big arena, and head of photography for that. And then they got a nomination, so I have a Latin Grammy nomination for that project, all while I'm teaching, while I'm teaching. And it's just been a blessing of a job, man. I went to go shoot a thing in LA a couple years ago, and I needed like 4 days off. No problem. My boss is like, cool, that counts as personal development. So just make sure your kids have what they need, and go do what you gotta do. So I'm literally looking at all these things, and I'm reminding myself, like, man, things could be so much worse, and your past, you have to not let it define you. And there's a gem, I guess. I know it's easier said than done. This is for somebody's listening to this right now saying, man, I need this. Listen. Yeah, you got to leave things in your past behind, but don't completely get rid of them, because looking back on your past allows you to see so many things. It allows you to see how blessed you are now. It allows you to see what you need to do different to not be in that situation again. I'm still dealing with my mother's death. I'm 41. That's never gonna go away. Never. It's just never gonna go away. When I was a kid too, my mom didn't have the best choice in men, and I actually have a sister who used to live with her dad. Her dad was a big-time drug dealer in Philly, and And when I was a kid too, why am I saying all this? I'm saying it because I'm saying it. All right, this is my freaking podcast. And hopefully I'm helping somebody. Guys, listen, when I was a kid, on 3 separate occasions, my house got raided. The last time it got raided, I was asleep. I woke up in midair because the task force dude had basically ran in my room. He grabbed my bed and flipped it upside down. And when I landed on my face, blood all on my face. ATF dude had me up on the wall like this. And another guy's like, yo, as a kid. They got me up on the wall. So I'm just Sunday, I'm flashing back to all of that, all of those things. And I'm just like, yo, why did I have to go through that? I have so many, like, I'm the lightest sleeper in the world. You could drop a pin downstairs and I'll hear it, trust me. Because of that, so sometimes I don't sleep. Still, this is stuff that happened when I was like 9-10 years old, and I still don't sleep because of it, you know what I mean? But I ignore these things. I ignore them, and they just stack up. This is why I'm telling you, there's no shame in getting help. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to myself here. There's no shame in getting help, but I'm also talking to you. Sometimes we got to do that, man. Especially especially men that come from where I come from, or men that come from the culture I come from. We got to be strong. When I was a kid, we if you listening to this and you from the same type of, whatever culture, whatever, like, we used to get beat up by our cousins all the time. Y'all had a cousin who used to punch me in the ribs every chance he got. He used to have black and blues in my ribs, and he would tell me, don't cry, man up. You know what I mean? Like, and, when we was young boys too, any little thing, if you was like, damn, and people be like, man, stop bitching. You know what I mean? Like, yo, stop crying, stop bitching, man. Yo, I had a homie one time. We was out, right? I'm not gonna say his name. We out at a bar. We partying at a bar. I'm like 20 years old. He come in the bar crying. So we go outside like, yo, what's up? You all right? What's going on? What happened? Like, somebody messing with you? He's like, no, my girl, blah, blah. And we start laughing like, bro, yo, like, stop crying. You crying over a girl, blah, blah. And we roasted him for like a good 20 minutes. But he ended up leaving. And later on that night, I was telling my roommate, Paulie, I'm like, yo, you think we should feel bad for roasting on him? And he was like, man, he be all right, blah, blah, this and that. And I was even thinking about that today. That's why I'm bringing it up. Because we just not raised, or at least I wasn't raised, people in my era, we just wasn't raised in that culture to be sensitive like that, especially if you was a guy. I mean, my mom would be like that. Like I said, anytime I got into a fight and I came home, she'd be like, yo, you better, if I find out that you didn't fight, if I find out you cried, if I find out, you gonna get your ass whooped. So, it's just like this thing, like always having to be tough all the time, always having to hold everything in all the time. I'm still like that. Even though I've accepted help and I've accepted going to counselors here and there. You know what else changes that? Marriage. Because I married the polar opposite of me. My wife is the polar opposite. She's a valley girl from California, and I'm a kid from the gutters of North Philly. And when we first got married, same thing. What happens with me is I'll shut down. I get real quiet. I don't talk. Sometimes for days. I can be really cold. Like, you could be standing in front of me crying, begging me to tell you what's wrong, and I'll just be looking at you. It's not that I'm cold-hearted like that. It's just that I have these I get these swings. I don't know if they're I don't know what to call them, but where I just get really like I shut down. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on Spotify, and you do the same thing, listen, please take this serious. Go get help. Seriously. Our past can strengthen us. Here's a gem. Our past, can strengthen us, or it can be the end of us. It can end up killing us. Seriously. Am I gonna sit here and say that thought hasn't ever crossed my mind? If I said that it hasn't, I'd be lying to you. Yeah. Even when I was touring and I was on the road and playing shows in Amsterdam in front of 50,000, and man, listen, when that past creeps up on you, there's nothing you can do about it. And if you don't know how to handle it, if you haven't gotten help for it, it can literally kill you. It could literally kill you. And by the grace of God, I'm not, look, if you're not a believer, that's fine. I don't judge you. You know what I mean? I'm a believer. I believe that God saved me from tons of horrible things in my childhood and tons of horrible things in my adult life, even as recently as a year ago. So yeah, that's a gem for you right there. If you need help, guys, go get it, man. Go get it. Men, put down that pride. Don't let that pride kill you. All right. Some of us, and I'm talking to men and women here, because women, same thing. There's no shame in getting help. The reason why I'm pointing this more toward men is because in my culture growing up, that's just not a thing you do. Guys, get help. Okay? I know I keep saying it, but I'm just trying to drive that point home. Get help. There's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. Dude Charlemagne, right? That dude Charlemagne from the Breakfast Club, he talks about it all the time, mental health and all that. And he even talks about how culturally that's just not ever really been a thing. You know what I mean? I don't really agree with a lot of things the guy does, but I can definitely second what he's preaching a lot, which is mental health. A lot of times, not dealing with your past too, for those of you that are married, can and will cause problems in your marriage. If you're not married yet, and you know you have these childhood issues or you have these issues, let me tell you something. Look, if you're watching this on YouTube, look me, you right there. Look me in the face. I'm gonna tell you right now. Do not get married without dealing with your past issues or your childhood issues. I hope you just heard that. Take it from me. Take it from somebody that almost lost his marriage several times over not dealing with his past. It's caused me to hurt a lot of people's feelings. It's gotten me into fights, physical fights. It's gotten me into situations where I've hit people with stuff. I'm not proud of any of that. I'm just saying it because I'm just in the spirit of being honest and just putting myself out there to the world. Yeah. And as I'm doing this, I'm realizing again, like, yo, I gotta get help for this. And it's also reminding me, like, damn, bro, you really are blessed. I grew up in a row home on 4th and Indiana in Philly, North Philly, 4th and Indiana, 5th and Allegheny, Fairhorn, Cambria. Grew up in a little, I wonder how big that house is. It's probably like 1,000 square feet. This room that I'm in right now is bigger than the room I grew up, than the room I had in my grandmom's house, and it's bigger than the room next to that room combined, just my office. Like, I'm looking at my office right now. Yeah, it's bigger than both of them rooms combined. I grew up in a row house, in a row home. When I lived with my grandmother, when I was living with my mom, yeah, my sister's dad was a big time drug dealer, and yeah, I lived in some really messed up situations. I'm debating on whether I should tell. I'm gonna just tell it. Screw it. It's funny, but it's not funny. So just to paint you a picture, the last time I lived with my mom and my stepfather, there was a grenade, and my godmother can attest to this. There was a grenade in the living room. It was on a shelf in the living room. A grenade. There was a couple things in the house, couple guns, couple like these big ass bullets. I don't know where that gun was at for them bullets, but we had stuff in the house. And one day I come home from school and I turn the corner and it's like 5-6 bomb squad guys, 2 ATF guys, like 10 cops all on the block, right? Now, I'm not thinking nothing of it. It's, whatever, it's North Philly. That was on A in Indiana, right across the street from this factory that used to be right there on A in Indy. I don't think that factory is even functional anymore. But I walk up to the house and it dawns on me, oh, they in the house. But again, it's nothing new. You know what I mean? I'm just glad I wasn't in the house to get slapped around by the cops. I was in, I think it was 4th grade. Yeah, 4th grade. I was at Elkins at the time, so I'm in 4th grade. So I go walking up the steps just to go in and see if they got my mom and them in there. And my mom and stepdad ain't home, and obviously my little sister ain't home. So as soon as I go in, the cop is like, "You live here?" And I tell him, "Yeah, of course, yeah, I live here." And he's like, "We need you to wait outside." So I go outside, and I'm sitting out on a step, like 2 doors down, just sitting there. Cops are talking, and eventually the one cop tells me to get out the house. He come out, he sees me, he's like, "Yo, come here, I need to talk to you." So he's like, "Listen, whose grenade is that?" So I'm like, how did they know? So I said, how you know about the grenade? And he's like, "Listen, I'm gonna ask you one more time. If you don't tell me whose it is, you're gonna be in trouble. Whose grenade is that in there? How long has it been there?" So I'm like, "It's my stepdad's grenade. It's been there as long as I can remember. I don't know where it came from. I don't touch it. I was told not to touch it. I was told not to even look at it. All right, it's been there for I don't know how long." So the cop is like, "All right, cool. Where's your parents at?" I don't know. I did know, but I didn't say that. So I'm just like, "I don't know." So he tells me, "You have family nearby." Now my godmother used to live on B. I guess that was considered B in Indy because you had to go over a little bridge. B in Indy, I'm guessing, yeah. So I'm like, "Yeah, my godmother lived on B in Indy. Like right there, I just got to go over this little bridge, and it's like a couple blocks that way." So he's like, "Nah, you got to call over there. You can't just go." So I call over there. Neighbor lets me use the phone. So I call, and my godmother is getting ready to go somewhere important. It was like work. It was something about work, and she was like, "Listen, I cannot come get you here, call this other person, call Carmen. It was this lady, Carmen, who was another friend of my mom. She lived up the block. So I called Carmen, and she's like, yeah, I'll come get you. I just finished bringing her kids home from school. So she's like, yeah, I'll come get you. So like 5 minutes later, here come Carmen crossing the bridge, and Carmen talks to the cop or whatever, and they let me go with Carmen. So what they end up doing is they end up putting like a notice on the door and a padlock. That's probably the third time that happened. My parents would just come home, rip the notice down, pop the padlock, and be right back in the house. So, yeah, so like, I want to say like 2 days later. Yeah, like 2 days later, my mom and them show up, and they come right to my godmother's, because of course they know I'm at my godmother's. So they come to my godmother's, pick me up. Same thing. We go back to the house. They rip down the notice. My stepfather's out there laughing about it with the neighbors, and they talking about the grenade or whatever. So he pops the door open. We go in there. We get all our stuff. We move out. But I'm telling you that story because I was thinking about that story in that time, that I'm like just kind of talking to myself and contemplating. And I'm just thinking like, that could have been bad. That could have went left quick. Could have went left real quick. My little sister could have grabbed it somehow. You know what I mean? She could have pushed the chair up and just reached up. It wasn't like high. I could have been a dumb kid and just grabbed it, pulled the pin, thinking it was, funny to do it. Who knows what could have happened? Anything could have. Somebody could have broken into the crib, used that same grenade on everybody, on everybody in the house, or somebody in the house. So just reaching back in my past. So my challenge to you, I'm going to set a challenge to you. If you're listening to this and you're like, man, I kind of needed to hear this. My challenge to you is look back on your past. Even if it's terrible, even if it's a terrible past, look back on it. Right now, even while you're listening to this, look back on it. Where you at right now? Are you in a better place? If you're in a better place, be thankful. Use that energy to pull yourself out of whatever you're going through. Am I saying that that's gonna work? I can't guarantee it, but it's a start, right? It's a start. If you're not in a better place, again, look at the mistakes. Bring them to the forefront and try to fix things. It's not too late. It's not too late at all. Are you 90 years old? No. You can still beat this. Whatever it is, you can beat it. Trust me. All right. Yeah. I don't know. I've been ranting for 50 minutes. This is crazy. I've been ranting for a minute, but yeah, like I said, I didn't write anything down, guys. I wasn't even gonna do this podcast, but I just feel like if I could help somebody, then so be it. You know what I mean? If I could help somebody, then it is what it is, and let's do it. Yeah. I need to know what y'all think, man. What do you think? Hit me up on the 10 Second Gems email. It's 10secondgems 10secondgems at gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram. We are on Instagram, 10 Second Gems at Instagram. My photography website is www.victorphotog.com. That's PHOTOG.com. If you need a wedding shot, whatever, let me know. Yeah, go check out my website. Shout out to my man Scott Gibson. He's in town here in Nashville. He got a barbecue company. Dude he's a monster. You can't like go there and get barbecue. It's not like a restaurant. So basically you order it, and they deliver it to you. The brisket, wings, all that is amazing. Go check him out. I believe the Instagram is at TN Smokehouse, I believe it is, or Tennessee Smokehouse. Guys, listen, love yourself, man. Take care of yourself. Nobody is going to take care. Listen, as a gym, nobody is going to take care of you like you. Take care of yourself. If you're the type of person that's always taking care of other people, this is going to sound weird, but stop doing that for a minute and take care of yourself. All right? You need to take care of yourself. It's extremely important. Take care of yourself. Love yourself. Get your mind right. All right? The next episode is going to be really dope. I got a friend of mine coming on to talk about environmental science. He's dope. He's a good friend of mine. And I'm excited for that podcast. I think we're going to record it this week, and it should be out on Monday. Anyway, guys, listen, I know that listening to this podcast is a commitment, and I just greatly appreciate you taking the time to listen to this. Hopefully I helped you or someone else. If somebody needs to hear this, pass this on to them, and hopefully this helps them. Hopefully I just helped you. Or maybe you just had a good time listening to it on the drive to work or from work. So anyway, thank you guys for listening. See you on the next episode.